this video, taking the old DRZ out for my very first ride. Already into this trail, I'm forgetting how tiring dirt bike riding can be, because I haven't been on a bike for about a year and a half. But so far the DRZ is proving exciting, and it's better than I was expecting it to be. Well, let's get started. Here we are on the DRZ, heading out for one of the first rides. Well, pretty much it's the first in the bush. Heading to dog track trail. Oops, stalled it already. Nice little downhill section here. Plenty of rocks. And here it is, dog trap trail. Let's see how we go. Not very well so far. Woo! Go the DRZ. This is a pretty slow and technical trail, which is pretty good, because the first thing that I noticed when getting on the DRZ is when I put my dirt bike riding boots on, I couldn't fit my foot between the foot peg and the gear shifter, so shifting up gear is a little bit tricky on this at the moment. I think I will need a longer gear shifter. So anyone who's watched my videos for a while will know I came from a KTM 350, which was an absolutely amazing bike. But I can tell you now, this bike here feels alright. It's better than you expect. This bike's a lot heavier than the KTM 350, obviously. I'd say it's probably at least 30 kilos heavier. But while the bike's in motion, you don't really notice that. The bike seems to be going quite good, feels good. Little uphill section here. And it goes in between some tight rocks. Woo! Does it easily. How good's the DRZ? This is a tight section too here between these two rocks. This bike only has the standard gearing that the bike came with. It could be slightly a little bit tall for this kind of riding, but I think I'm just going to keep it standard, because this bike I want it to be a little bit more versatile than only riding single track. I'd also like to do a little bit of more longer distance type riding. I assume they call it venture riding. So I think I'll just keep the gearing like this and just have to get used to the way that it is. I mean, it's still getting through all of this stuff without too much problems. And obviously the more that I ride the bike, the more I will get used to the way it is. But first gear is still handling this stuff quite nicely. And it just feels good to be back on a bike again. I haven't ridden for about a good year and a half. And as you can see by this trail, I don't think anyone's riding it. The DRZ suspension. So far I'm not disappointed. This is very rocky terrain, really giving this suspension a good workout. And the DRZ's handling it just nice. I was concerned about the suspension, being as though it's not a modern type of suspension. I mean, it's old school suspension. I thought, oh, a heavy bike with this type of suspension, what will it be like? Well, I can tell you, it's handling it. And it's actually quite comfortable. How about the clutch? An old school cable clutch. Well, the only thing I'm finding that I'm not liking is the gear lever. The clutch lever is a little bit too long. It hits my finger because I only like to use 2 fingers. On the KTM, I cut it down so that only 2 fingers could fit on it, and I found that was much better. So I might just trim that down a little on this. That easy, it just loves it. I'm more than happy with the performance of the DRZ. I think the problem with the DRZ is because it's an older bike. I mean, came to age in the year 2000. We're talking 2023 here that I'm doing this ride, and it just performs better than you would expect. I think when people buy a DRZ, they expect it not to be overly great, and every time they ride it, they're pleasantly surprised. This section here is a nice tight spot, quite steep in between a rock. Goes into a nice little creek bed. I made this track with my KTM 350. This is actually a track that I made. Haven't been on it for a year and a half. Haven't ridden bikes for a year and a half. And I'm losing the track because obviously no one rides it and you can't see it. So with the amount of bike fitness and skill level that I would have lost over that period of time, the DRZ is giving me a bloody good ride, and I don't feel uncomfortable or frightened or anything like that. Even though I haven't been on a bike for a while, I feel quite comfortable. I feel like the bike's quite capable because it just does it. Now, it doesn't do it in the way that my KTM did. The KTM was a lot more, I don't know, sort of flowy and light, and it just sort of, I don't know, it was more finesse in the bike, I guess. Whereas this bike here seems to just tractor through it. What you think it won't get through, it just does. Does it do it elegantly? Not really, but it doesn't do it terribly. It just does it. Well, that section there was a little uphill into some large rocks that you had to sort of bounce it over. It doesn't do it with the finesse that the KTM did, but it still just does it. And it doesn't feel uncomfortable or that you're pushing the bike beyond its limits, because you're definitely not. Now, you can see why these bikes have got that cult following. And maybe that bit of extra weight that it does carry just gets you through those sections where the finesse won't get you through it. The weight of the bike will get you through it. Oh, how good is this? Look at this, it's just fantastic. Out in the bush on your dirt bike, what more could a guy want for? trying to go up this section. Big rock ledge here. Up it goes. Does it easy. Suspension was not a problem. It didn't case out. It didn't even feel like it was going to case out. They're a far better bike than you would ever think, these things. I always did have a soft spot for the DRZ, but I was always a bit like, should I ever get one? And I don't think I was ready for one, because I just thought, no, it won't be good enough. But a trail like this, it's more than good enough. They're a good bike. Would I enter the bike into a race event against thoroughbred KTMs and the WR450s and hard enduro? No, of course I wouldn't. But would I enter that event on any bike? No. I'm not a racer, and I'm well past trying to prove myself to anybody. 47 years of age, those days are beyond me, and it's all for pleasure. And this bike's given me plenty of pleasure today. One thing I have noticed, the DRZ over the KTM, the brakes aren't as good on this as that KTM. That KTM had phenomenal brakes on it. They were fantastic. This one here, well, it reminds me of just a Japanese motorcycle. Any of the motocrosser bikes, any of that, it's the same sort of feel on the brakes. And the KTM had those Brembo brakes, and they were fantastic. So it's definitely not as good as braking, but it's as good as any other Japanese bike, the brakes. That's about it for this trail. Man, that was a good ride. I enjoyed that. If you like this kind of thing, consider subscribing. And I'll see you next time. Big goanna there up the tree there. I frightened him. As I come past, he comes scooting up that tree. She's a big one. Probably can't see it too good on the GoPro, but trust me, that one there should be a good 1.5 meters.